See that guy down there? No, not that guy. The big one getting the crap beat out of him. That's me. My name is Eric Hobaugh, and this is my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu story. I'm a 46-year-old white belt and retired MMA writer. Join me as I travel the country meeting other people who train BJJ and discover their stories and maybe even get the privilege of being tapped out by them. Welcome to On the Mat With.
So it's really important to know is a guillotine defense when you're standing. If Jesse has me in a guillotine here, I can be in big trouble if I don't have a reaction to this. So let's just go over the arm out guillotine today. So if both arms are free, and he's got me, and I'm getting choked on this side of his body, I'm going to take my left hand and cup his wrist and pull it real tight to my chest here. And I'm going to take my right hand, or my free hand, whichever side I'm getting choked on, and I'm going to toss it over his shoulder. That way, if he starts lifting me, I can kind of put a lot of pressure on him and kind of lift myself up with him a little bit. So it makes it much more difficult on him. And if he's even super strong and you lift me, I can jump up here and kind of support myself until he gives out a little bit, or detects a little bit of weakness. And I can come back down. I'm still avoiding the choke. So from here, I'm going to step over to the opposite side of what I'm being choked on. So if I'm here, I'm going to step over to this side, and I'm going to take my right knee, and I'm going to buckle his with it. So I'm going to put it right in his knee pit and make him shift. Here. So even a real big guy will go off balance right here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start just to take him down this way. Here. From here, if I need him to let go, I can take my free hand and put it right in his neck, and I'm just going to draw my weight into it. And he'll let go. Another technique you could try here, which if it's a guy much bigger than you, I wouldn't recommend it because I've been flipped here before in that case. But if they're about my weight or a little smaller, you know, even a little bit bigger, I'll be okay. Here, I'm gonna lock my hands, and if you notice his arm is trapped on the side of me right here. So now I'm imposing my will on him at this point. I'm gonna take my right shoulder and I'm gonna push it into his neck. I'm gonna shift all my weight into that shoulder. You get the tap there. Reese happened earlier. Sorry. I didn't feel it at first. So.
Hello everyone, my name is Eric Hobaugh with Rear Naked Choke, and today we are at Austin Linton's gym, Porto De Corro in New Albany, Indiana. Hey Austin.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks for hanging out with me today.
No problem.
First episode of On the Mat With. Just going to jump right into it. How old are you?
I'm 25, but I'll be 26 in February, so basically 26.
And how long have you been training?
I started when I was 15. I don't know exactly at what stage when I was 15, but so right around 10 years.
10 years. And how long did it take to get your Brembo?
I guess 8. I think I got it 2 years ago.
8 years. And it's under the amazing Fábio Santos. And how did that connection happen?
So basically, we had trained with Scott Tackett and Brett O'Loughlin for probably 4 years down at Haley Pike, and then they switched to Jeffersonville. And so when that happened, a little bit after that time was when gas spiked to like $5 a gallon, and it just became more convenient for us because Jason and Houston and Dalton and I all lived out in the Knobs to do our own thing, and my dad had basically built this room for us to all train in, and so we thought to ourselves, well, you know, we can expand this out and make this work for us, and that way we can save gas money and not have to drive all the way out there. Not that there's anything wrong with those guys, they were great and everything, it just it's more convenient for us to do that. So we decided to start our own thing, and when we started out, it just got to be us just getting together to roll. But then more and more people started coming along, so we started running classes, and it went from there. And so Bruce basically was running, Bruce Shepard was running, or was basically overseeing all the stuff going on at Jeffersonville. And Houston Dalton's uncle, Donnie Million, he knew Fábio because he used to live out there in California. And so Fábio came in for a visit. And was
Did he train with him?
Yeah, he trained out there.
Okay.
He was a blue belt at the time.
Wow.
And so Fábio came out to visit and was going to give a seminar at our new place. And after that, we basically become good friends with Fábio, and we went under him, and we got our purple belts because we had been training for years before then. After we got our blue belts, just by ourselves, nobody was promoting us. We hadn't seen Bruce in a long time. Mainly our fault more than anybody's, but anyways, we were ready for promotions at that time. So we'd gotten purple belts, and then we basically just stayed with Fábio, and so he's been coming every year since.
Wow. So the timeline from when you very first started to the time you started your own garage, basically, how long was that?
Right around 4 years.
So you started training, you went 4 years, your dad helped you get the garage going, and then from there. And
Yeah.
how many guys were in the original gym? Just a guess.
Our part, or as far as like Jeffersonville and stuff?
In the garage.
I'd say Morton was our first student, so that would put us at 5.
Wow.
But from there we.
That's so cool. Sure. Yeah, and I've trained out there before years ago, and at times we would have 15 people, which is amazing from what you started. So, and I don't know if you remember this or not, but a long time ago, when I first started, I asked you why you started training, and I have turned that over in my head for the entire time, thinking about your story, which you're going to tell in just a second, and how interesting that was to me. And I thought there'd be a lot of people out there that'd be interested in not only your story, but a lot of other people, and that's what we're doing here. We're going to be traveling and talking to other people and getting their story. So
Cool.
just wanted to give you full credit for this whole thing.
Well, thanks.
So tell your story. Why did you start training jiu-jitsu?
So basically, I was at high school one day, and we were walking down the hallway, and some kid ended up getting beat up really bad. And along with everybody else, you kind of want to do something, but most people think that they can fight until they get in the situation, and really, I don't care how tough you are, you really don't know how to fight until you've been at least in a training scenario, because there's all kinds of elements that you just don't even know to think about. So when that had happened, I thought to myself, I really, really need to learn how to do something to protect not only myself, but other people as well, if something does happen like that. And so I talked to my dad, and he just so happened to know Scott Jones, who was basically on par, if not the highest level guy in the area right now. And he was a purple belt at the time under Pedro Sauer, and I believe he had just gotten his brown belt under Marcelo Vieira at the time. So he is kind of like a dual ranked guy, and he decided he wanted to be with Pedro, and so he started getting ranked up in that system after that. But anyways, my dad had talked to him because they worked together at UPS, and Scott agreed to give me private lessons every weekend. So he was giving me privates for probably about 4 months, I would say, maybe a little longer than that. And then after that, he basically had some family stuff come up where he couldn't do that anymore, but he was friends with Scott Tackett and all those guys, and he was like, hey, you should probably be training here, if you want to keep training, that'd be a good opportunity for you. And Jason had already been training there. So basically I got into it that way, and I wanted to learn how to defend myself and everybody, that I cared about. And then after that, you reach a certain point where you can pretty much take care of yourself and everybody, as best as a person can in most scenarios. And then after that, it becomes getting past the little goals, and you keep setting goals for yourself, and you don't ever really want to quit because you just want to keep getting up there until black belt and beyond, basically.
If you think about that little thing that happened to you all those years ago and to today, and all the lives that you touch, and the guys that you work with and train with, it's kind of a cool story, and I really found it fascinating, and I thought that so would everybody else. So thanks for telling me. That's great. Advice for white belts.
For white belts, the best thing to do is try to work the techniques you're shown, and if nothing else, pick up one technique every class and try to utilize it, and then utilize it from other positions too, not even necessarily how you're told to use it, but try to think about other ways to tie it into things, because that's going to help you grow your game at higher levels. And beyond that, don't have an ego. Always just look to make yourself better. Don't compete with anybody else. Compete with yourself at your current state, and that's going to help you get the furthest for sure.
Good advice. MMA. You fought in MMA?
Yeah, I decided. I trained with Matt Kitterman for a while, and he was an awesome boxer.
Maybe coming up soon.
Okay, yeah.
On the mat with. If he'll do it.
But I can't say enough good things about Matt Kitterman. He's a monster, and anyways, I started training with him when I was 16 because my dad was also good friends with him in the past. And actually, if you really want to go into it, he was probably my original teacher because he used to come out to my house when I was an itty bitty kid and teach certain self-defense things to my parents. And actually, Jason was there too.
Awesome.
And me.
Who's your cousin, right?
Yeah, Jason Dempster. And he was also an instructor here too. So, but anyways, Matt had shown us stuff then, and 10 years down the road, or however long it was down the road, I knew he was training up at Gordon, and I was like, well, I'm going to try to make it up there. And at the time, I was wanting to train with anybody I could, and so I got to train with Kitterman, and we would roll all the time. He'd teach me boxing techniques and kickboxing techniques, and an MMA event came up, and he was like, hey, Austin, do you think you'd want to do this? They're looking for a guy at about 145, and he's like, I think you would do pretty well. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do this. And Jason was going to do one too, so me and Jason both competed in the same event. He competed 10 pounds heavier than me, and yeah,
That's
Kitterman.
it. That's how you got started at MMA.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So
I'm gonna fight. That's awesome.
So Jason and I had basically rigorously trained for months, getting ready for the fights, and we ended up doing okay. And all credit to Kitterman, he helped us as much as possible, and it was awesome. There's professional fighters from around here that have gone to Kitterman's, even guys that have fought in the UFC, and have said it's a good thing Kitterman decided to go with boxing instead of MMA
Because
he's just awesome.
yeah, I've rolled with him once. He's a big dude and he's pretty nimble and just one of the strongest guys I've ever. And I only rolled with him once, but he's sort of a legend around here for
He
sure.
can fight on so many fronts too. I mean, he's black belt in judo, super good at wrestling, undefeated pro boxer,
brown belt in
brown
jiu-jitsu.
belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and so on and so forth. Just a monster.
Wow. Well, let's see what we can do about him. All right. So, what's your signature move, or what's your favorite thing to do?
So that's like a hard question to answer because over the years, and most experienced people will tell you this too, that you change what you're working on all the time. So one thing might be your favorite one year, and then something else your next, and so on and so forth. But probably the best move for me to show here that most people would probably remember me from, if nothing else, is bicep cutters. Because for some reason when I'd started, I got really fascinated with that move. I think because it sounded cooler than anything else too.
Yeah.
So I'd worked on a lot of ways to set up bicep cutters. And I've got all kinds of setups for all sorts of different ones, but probably one that I've started doing that I'm not going to say is good jiu-jitsu because it's probably not from the best position, but it's an opportunistic move. If you're there, you can go ahead and try it. So a lot of times what I'll do is, let's see if forewarning here, this may not be the best practice to do, but it's kind of opportunistic and it's tricky. So one thing I've started doing is I'll get control of somebody's sleeve and I'll feed my foot to the other side and I'll go over here. And so what I'm looking to do is a sweep if I can here as well. So sometimes you can sweep them over this way. Now granted it's not as powerful as a sweep where it's like this, but this is setting up my other attacks. So here and here, and if I can sweep then grand, but what I'm really looking for is I'm going to spin underneath of this guy. My leg is right here and his arm's between it. So a lot of people do this bicep cutter. You figure four your legs, and you reach up behind here, and you lift your hips, and you get the tap here. Okay? Now, I've modified this because I've had a lot of guys crush me down from here or do other ways to escape this. I feel like I don't have as much control. So what I've started doing is I'll keep here, and I'll reach up underneath their arm, and I'll hug their body down to mine, and then I'll reach around and grab their head here. So now I've got him locked down, and it may feel like he can pull his arm out, but with my hips dropped down and in this crevice here, I feel pretty certain he can't get out. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking to lift my hips, and then I'm going to drop them at a distance a little bit further to get this tap. So that's real tricky. Most people don't see it coming. So then from there, if I don't get the tap, people start to kind of panic. And so what I'll do is I'll feed that panic. So I'll push this out a little bit, let them escape, and I'll take this foot and bring it over the top, and I'll start to move their arm out this way. And basically what I'm looking to do is to feed this here. So now I keep them locked down, and then I just lift for the Kimura right there.
That's powerful, man. Nice. And what's that called again?
It's just a bicep cutter into a Kimura with the legs.
Right, just hit it one more time.
Yeah. So, we get here, feed a leg over the top. I'm reaching through, looking for a sweep. If that doesn't work, I'm coming through here. I've got his arm locked in place. I'm going to lift my hips, slightly drop them just to lock this down a little bit. I'm coming up underneath of his arm, and I grab around the head. Now he's stuck and his body's connected to mine. And I'm just going to lift my hips, push them away, and then drop them down for the tap. Okay, so if somebody's really panicking from there, I can sometimes guide this arm with this foot and put it right here and get that tap.
I've never felt that before.
It's
That's
sneaky.
Awesome. And that doesn't that last part doesn't have a name.
Yeah, it's basically a Kimura with his
Still
foot.
Linton.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that the other day, naming something after somebody. So, anyway, appreciate it, man. Thank you so
No
much
problem.
for the couple of years that we've been coming here,
No problem.
sharing
My
your story.
pleasure.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks, man.
No problem.